Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time it's all about preparing for a lawyer interview.
Yes, that's right. We're going to be using some insights from RoleCatcher.
We're going to help you sort of break down those really tough questions, that everyone dreads in interviews, but hopefully we can give you a little bit more confidence going in. I'm joined by, well, an expert on this.
And I'm excited to sort of connect those dots between the kind of the what and the so what.
Yeah, we're going to be tackling some of those really juicy questions. Like, how do you deal with difficult clients?
How do you handle ethical dilemmas?
Yeah, it's going to be good. But again, it's not just about kind of like memorizing answers or anything. It's really about understanding that kind of why behind them so that you can really tailor them and make them your own. So let's sort of set the stage here. What does a lawyer really do?
A lawyer, I think, at the core, guides clients. They act on behalf of clients. They do a lot of research. They interpret and study cases represent in court.
The demand is pretty high, right?
Yeah, the demand is really high. It's an area where there's a steady growth projected.
All right, so let's jump into some of those interview questions and sort of guide you through some of RoleCatcher's insights. So the first one, and this is such a classic, it often trips people up, is that question, what inspired you to pursue a career in law? It's so easy to fall into those cliches, but how do we stand out?
This is where I think we have to really think about authenticity. And how can we connect our own personal motivations to the values of the firm that we're applying to?
Right.
So thinking about specific cases, legal figures, even areas of law that ignite that passion.
So instead of saying, oh, I want to help people,
Yeah.
you're telling a story.
Yeah.
Like I was deeply moved by, the Brown versus Board of Education case.
Right.
And how it used law to dismantle segregation. It really ignited my passion for using legal expertise to fight for equality.
Yeah, and you're giving an example. That really shows that it's genuine and that it's coming from a place of, real, experience.
Totally. And I think RoleCatcher has this great feature, too, where you can save your favorite questions, practice your answers, and even get feedback from their AI to see how it aligns with what interviewers are looking for.
And it's great to practice out loud, too, because sometimes things sound good in your head. But when you start speaking them out loud, you realize, oh, wait, maybe I need to rework that a little bit.
Totally. All right, so this next question can throw some people off. How do you stay updated with the latest legal developments? It's not enough to say, I read legal journals. So how can you be proactive?
Right. So beyond the journals, we want to think about conferences we've attended, legal blogs we follow, professional associations that we're part of. Maybe, there's a particular area of law that you are really passionate about and you seek out. Podcasts or webinars on that topic.
And that shows that you're curious, like you're constantly learning.
Absolutely.
All right, so this next one, this could be tricky. Describe a time you handled a difficult client or situation.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone has a story.
We've all got them.
Right, but how do we choose one that highlights our strengths without being overly negative?
Right. So we want to make sure that the story that we're choosing is focusing on conflict resolution, professionalism. And how can we keep it concise and, not go too far into the details without, revealing too much or making a past employer look bad.
Right. So instead of saying this client was impossible, you could try something like I had a client who was, very emotional and skeptical. But I took the time to really listen to their concerns, understand those concerns,
right,
explain the legal complexities in a way that was clear and empathetic. This really helped build trust and ultimately led to a more positive outcome.
And that's exactly what you want to focus on is the outcome, because that shows that you're a problem solver, that you can work with difficult people and that you can still succeed in the end.
Totally. And I think, too, it's always important to highlight what you learn from that.
Absolutely.
So it shows you're constantly growing.
Continuous improvement.
All right. So here's one that really gets at the heart of a lawyer's skill set. How do you approach legal research and writing?
Oh, that's a good one.
How do we showcase, our mastery of the tools and the techniques?
So for this one, we want to think about it as if we are taking the interviewer on a mini tour of our research process. So mention things like Westlaw and LexisNexis, and highlight how you use Boolean searches, specific databases, case citators, to really efficiently find that relevant information.
So instead of saying I'm good at research, you're saying I start by identifying key terms, using Boolean operators to narrow down my search on Westlaw.
Right.
Then I dive into the relevant case law and secondary sources. always making sure to accurately cite my sources.
Yeah, you're showing your process. You're showing your expertise.
And I think, RoleCatcher also has a great feature here. They offer AI-powered feedback on your answers. So you can actually record yourself answering this question and get feedback on your clarity, conciseness, even your use of legal terminology.
It's like having a legal writing coach in your pocket.
Totally. All right, so this next one is crucial for demonstrating your organizational skills. How do you manage your workload and prioritize tasks?
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, and this is where you can showcase, how you juggle those deadlines and stay on top of everything.
Yeah, and I would encourage listeners to refer back to the career stages section in RoleCatcher's Lawyer Career Guide and think about what are the expectations at different levels. If I'm a junior associate versus a senior partner, how can I tailor my response accordingly?
So if you're aiming for that junior associate position, you might say, I'm used to handling, a high volume of tasks in a fast-paced environment.
Right.
I prioritize based on deadlines and client needs. And I rely on tools like project management software or detailed to-do lists to stay organized.
You're not just saying that you can do it. You're giving concrete examples of how you do it.
All right, let's move on to one that kind of tests your ethical compass here.
Yeah.
How do you handle conflicts of interest? This is where you demonstrate your commitment to professional standards and client confidentiality. It can feel intimidating, but it's really just showcasing your awareness and, your ability to navigate those ethically tricky situations. So what are some key points to hit on?
Well, I think this is where we really want to showcase how we identify potential conflicts, how we understand the ethical implications, and the steps that we take to mitigate those conflicts. And I think it's helpful to think back to your experiences in law school, your internships, even volunteer work. Was there a situation where maybe your personal interests might have clashed with your professional obligations?
So instead of just stating, the ABA rules, you give a real-life example. Like during a legal clinic, I was assigned to a case that touched on an area where a family member actually had business interests. So I immediately flagged this to the supervising attorney to ensure there was no conflict and that the client received unbiased representation.
So you're showing that you have awareness, that you're thinking proactively, and that you're putting the client's interests first.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so here's one that often catches people off guard. How do you handle feedback and criticism? And it's easy to get defensive, but how can we turn this into an opportunity to showcase a growth mindset? I think it's about reframing criticism as a tool for learning and improvement, and sharing an example of where you received some constructive feedback, how you applied it and the positive impact it had on your work.
I think a lot of people hear criticism and they kind of shut down. But if you can show that you're open to it, that you can learn from it and even grow from it, that's really impressive to interviewers.
Definitely. So you might say something like, early in my legal career, a senior partner actually pointed out that my legal writing was a little bit overly complex and difficult for clients to understand.
Oh, yeah.
I got that feedback to heart. Really focused on clarity and conciseness, and even sought out some additional training on plain language legal writing. And this made me a much more effective communicator. And it really strengthened those client relationships.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it is about communicating with your clients and making sure that they understand what's going on.
Totally. Okay, switching gears a little bit here.
Yeah.
To collaboration. Interviewers often ask, describe a time you collaborated to achieve a goal. So what are we trying to highlight here?
So for this question, we want to choose a situation where teamwork was essential for success. And we want to emphasize our specific contributions, highlighting our communication skills, our problem-solving skills, and our ability to work with people who might have different personalities than us.
They're not just like taking all the credit. It's like, how did you work with others to achieve that shared goal?
Right, exactly.
So for instance, you could say, in law school, I worked on a mock trial team where we had to prepare this really complex defense strategy. My role was to research case precedents and draft legal arguments. And, we faced a setback when a key piece of evidence was ruled inadmissible. So I collaborated with my teammates to kind of brainstorm some alternative approaches, which ultimately helped us pivot our strategy and secure a successful outcome.
Yeah, and you're showing that you can adapt, that you can think on your feet, and that you can work well under pressure.
Right. All right, let's talk about one that really kind of dives into your moral compass. Describe a time you made a difficult ethical decision.
Ooh, yeah, everyone's got one of those.
This one can be tough, but it's a chance to really show your integrity.
Yeah.
And how you navigate complex situations.
Definitely.
I think it's less about the specific decision and more about the process.
Absolutely.
So how did you approach that dilemma? What factors did you consider?
So what was your thought process?
Yeah, how did you balance those competing interests?
Yeah, exactly.
So you might say something like, during an internship, I discovered a potential error in a document. That could have benefited our client, but it might have been legally questionable. So I wrestled with the implications, consulted with my supervisor, and ultimately decided to bring the issue to light, even though it meant delaying the case, because upholding those ethical standards, even when it was challenging, was really paramount to me.
Right, and you're showing that you're willing to do the right thing, even if it's not the easy thing.
Totally. Okay, let's tackle one about alternative approaches. Describe your experience with alternative dispute resolution.
ADR.
This is really about showing that you're well-versed in those different legal pathways.
Yeah, and that you understand there are options beyond just going to court.
Right.
And so this is where you can highlight your understanding of mediation, arbitration, and how these can be advantageous in certain situations. And you can connect this back to RoleCatcher's pros and cons section on litigation versus ADR, and really showcase that you understand, the complexities involved.
Right. So you could say something like, I've participated in several mediation sessions during my internship at a family law firm, and I really learned how effective mediation can be in resolving those disputes while preserving relationships and reducing the emotional toll of litigation. It taught me the importance of creative problem solving and finding that common ground.
And I think that's a really important point, because a lot of times people think about law as being very adversarial, but there's also a lot of room for collaboration and for finding solutions that work for everyone involved.
Exactly. All right, so before we move on to some final tips, I just want to emphasize the importance of tailoring your answers to the specific firm and role that you're applying for.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think RoleCatcher's AI features can be really valuable here.
Definitely.
They can analyze your responses, compare them to successful answers for similar roles, and even provide feedback on your use of legal terminology. It's like having a personalized coach guiding you every step of the way.
It really is like having that extra set of eyes and that extra bit of expertise to help you really fine-tune your responses.
Definitely. And don't forget, RoleCatcher's extensive database of career and interview guides can provide some really valuable insights into different practice areas and firms. So take advantage of those resources.
Absolutely.
To really fine-tune those responses and showcase your genuine interest in the specific opportunity. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground, but there are a few more questions that you might encounter, often towards the end of an interview.
Okay.
So are you ready to tackle those?
Let's do it.
Okay, great.
All right, so one question you'll probably hear is, why are you interested in working at this particular firm? And it's not enough to just say, oh, you have a great reputation.
Got to go a little deeper.
Exactly. You got to do your research. Have you read about their recent cases? Do their values align with yours? Do they have maybe like a specific pro bono program that you're really passionate about? Or a commitment to a certain area of law?
Yeah, I think connecting it back to like your own interests and showing that you've done that research is key.
Exactly. And you can even mention specific partners whose work you admire.
Yeah, you could say something like, I'm really impressed by your firm's commitment to environmental law. And I'm particularly interested in, your recent work on renewable energy litigation.
Right.
Because I really believe this field is crucial for a sustainable future.
Yeah. And that shows that you're forward thinking. That you're interested in the big picture.
All right, so here's one that can feel a little awkward. What are your salary expectations?
Ooh, yeah, the salary question.
It's a dance, It
is.
Knowing your worth, but also not pricing yourself out.
Right, and this is where preparation is key. Use resources like RoleCatcher's Salary Insights, or even, sites like Glassdoor to get a sense of the market rate for similar roles in your geographic area. And consider your own experience, your qualifications.
Right, but also be realistic about the firm's compensation philosophy.
Exactly.
So instead of just throwing out a number, you could say something like, based on my research and my understanding of the role's responsibilities, I'm expecting a salary in the range of X to Y. However, I'm open to discussing this further and learning more about your firm's overall compensation package.
Yeah, and that shows that you're flexible, that you're willing to negotiate.
All right, so the question that's often your final impression. Do you have any questions for me?
Ooh, this is a big one.
It's not just a formality, it's your chance to really shine.
It is, and this is where you want to avoid those questions that you can easily Google.
Yeah.
You want to really dig deeper. Ask about the firm's culture, the team you'd be working with, their vision for the future. You can even ask about the interviewer's own career path.
Yeah, I love
what they've learned along the way.
it. Shows genuine curiosity and, a desire to learn.
Absolutely.
So you might say something like, I'm really curious about the firm's mentorship program
Hmm.
and the opportunities for professional development. What kind of support do junior associates receive?
Yeah, and that shows that you're thinking long-term, that you're invested in your own growth and development.
Totally. So as we kind of wrap up this section, we've covered a lot of those common questions. But remember, authenticity and passion
Yes.
are your secret weapons.
Absolutely.
When you're genuinely excited about the law. In the firm, it shines through.
It really does.
So practice your answers.
Yes.
With RoleCatcher's AI tools, fine-tune them for each specific firm.
Right. Tailor them.
And walk into that interview with confidence.
You got this.
And before we wrap up, I just wanted to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
Think back to that lawyer career stages section in RoleCatcher's guide. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? How will this interview be that first step on that journey?
Yeah, visualize your success, embrace the challenge, and remember, you got this.
That's it for our lawyer interview, Deep Dive. We hope you feel prepared, empowered, and ready to ace those interviews. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.